Welcome to Whispers and Confessions. There might be a twist waiting, so please make sure to watch until the end. Don't forget to subscribe and like. Let's begin right away.
My name is Noah, and I'm 33 years old. I'm an ordinary office worker who experienced a divorce a year ago. 3 years prior, I married my then-girlfriend, Grace, a charming woman 2 years my junior who worked as a temporary employee at my company. Grace's appearance instantly captivated me. She epitomized my ideal partner. Determined to pursue a relationship, I initiated conversations and arranged meals together. Our connection deepened, and when I confessed my feelings, Grace reciprocated, marking the beginning of our romantic journey. Initially, our relationship was euphoric. Every moment felt magical, and our physical compatibility seemed perfect. However, my exceptional stamina, which I initially perceived as an asset, became a source of strain. Unaware of the toll it took on Grace, I consistently sought intimate encounters, misinterpreting her acquiescence as enthusiasm. This misunderstanding persisted throughout our year-long courtship and into our marriage. I erroneously equated frequent physical intimacy with affection, failing to recognize the burden it placed on Grace. It wasn't until our third year of marriage that the truth surfaced. Grace finally revealed her struggle. It's not that I dislike intimacy. The issue is your stamina. Since we started dating, I found it challenging to keep up with your frequency and intensity. It's physically taxing and leaves me exhausted. I've been refusing more often because I couldn't find a way to express this without hurting your feelings. I hoped you'd notice, but I realize now I should have communicated more clearly. This revelation shattered my misconceptions. The realization that I had repeatedly engaged in activities Grace found uncomfortable filled me with remorse and self-reproach. In an attempt to rectify the situation, I promised to be more considerate. However, this led to a new problem. An overwhelming sense of guilt that made me hesitant to initiate any physical contact. Our relationship gradually became strained, with awkward silences replacing once easy conversations. The emotional distance grew, and we found ourselves irritated by trivial matters that we previously overlooked. Eventually, we concluded that separation would be the best course of action for both of us. As our 3-year marriage came to an end, we parted amicably, each hoping for the other's happiness. This experience taught me a valuable lesson about the importance of open communication and mutual understanding in relationships. I vowed never again to make assumptions about a partner's needs or desires without proper dialogue. Approximately a year after the divorce, an unexpected turn of events occurred. I received a message from Grace that would ultimately reshape my life in ways I couldn't have anticipated. The series of events that unfolded were nothing short of extraordinary. Post-divorce, I found myself unable to pursue new romantic relationships. While there were individuals who piqued my interest, I couldn't bring myself to develop any meaningful connections. The fear of inadvertently causing distress to another person, as I had with Grace, paralyzed me emotionally. This self-imposed isolation led to a period of introspection and melancholy. One ordinary day, my phone buzzed with a notification. To my astonishment, it was a message from Grace, our first contact since the finalization of our divorce. The simple query, "How are you doing?" stirred a whirlwind of memories and emotions. I responded cordially, inquiring about her well-being and the reason for her sudden outreach. Grace's reply left me utterly flabbergasted. "I'm doing really well," she began, before dropping a bombshell. "I have an unusual favor to ask. Are you currently single? If so, would you consider engaging in a threesome with my sister and me?" The proposition was so unexpected that I couldn't help but exclaim aloud in disbelief. The sister in question was undoubtedly Zoe, Grace's sibling 6 years my senior. While Grace possessed a cute charm, Zoe exuded a mature sensuality that was equally captivating. Both sisters shared similar features, yet each had their unique allure. Bewildered, I pressed Grace for more details. Her explanation only deepened my confusion. "My sister is currently unattached. We thought you might be interested in joining us. Given your impressive stamina, we figured you'd be more than capable of satisfying both of us. And since it's been a while, you needn't be as restrained as you were during our marriage." I struggled to comprehend the situation. Zoe, with her striking beauty and undoubtedly numerous admirers, seemed an unlikely candidate for such an arrangement. Moreover, the choice to involve me, their ex-husband and ex-brother-in-law respectively, seemed peculiar. Grace's true motivations remained elusive, leaving me perplexed. Initially, I entertained the notion that Grace might be seeking reconciliation, using this unconventional proposal as a pretext. However, I quickly dismissed this idea, concluding that perhaps they simply desired a novel experience to break the monotony of their lives. In all honesty, the prospect was tempting. Since the divorce, I had been bereft of physical intimacy, and the longing for human connection had been growing steadily. Furthermore, I harbored no ill will towards Grace, and Zoe had always been aesthetically pleasing to me. Finding no compelling reason to decline, I agreed to their proposal. Little did I know that this decision would become a pivotal moment in my life's trajectory. Grace's response was tinged with a hint of triumph. "That's fantastic. I was fairly confident you'd agree, about an 80% chance, I'd say. Given your renowned stamina, I doubted you'd pass up this opportunity." She informed me that Zoe had also consented to the arrangement. Grace added encouragingly, "When the day comes, don't hold back. Just immerse yourself in the experience and enjoy it to the fullest." I couldn't help but wonder about the dynamics between the sisters and how Grace had managed to convince Zoe. Known for her serious demeanor, Zoe didn't strike me as someone who would readily agree to such an unconventional proposition. However, I decided to set aside my curiosity and embrace the situation for what it was, an unexpected adventure. We settled on meeting at my apartment over the weekend. As the appointed day drew near, a mixture of anticipation and nervousness coursed through me. When Grace arrived, her radiant smile caught me off guard. It was evident that life post-divorce had been treating her well, a realization that brought me a sense of relief and happiness for her continued well-being. Although my relationship with Grace had concluded, I found solace in knowing she was thriving. It's only natural to wish for the well-being of someone who once held a special place in your heart. However, given that our romantic connection was now a chapter of the past, I didn't experience any particular stirring of emotions. Zoe, whom I hadn't laid eyes on in quite some time, remained a vision of beauty and allure. Her long, raven hair cascaded gracefully over her shoulders, and her large eyes sparkled with a blend of intelligence and warmth. As she entered with poise, I found myself momentarily speechless, captivated by her presence. Zoe's figure was the epitome of perfection. Her silhouette, a harmonious blend of slender curves, struck an exquisite balance between sensuality and sophistication. The dress she wore only served to accentuate her innate charm. Its design cleverly emphasized her waist, highlighting her svelte figure, while the tastefully modest neckline offered a tantalizing glimpse of her elegant décolletage. Despite a hint of nervousness, Zoe greeted me with a gentle smile. "It's been a while, Noah," she said, her voice steady but with an underlying tremor that betrayed her composure. We held each other's gaze for a moment, enveloped in a palpable silence. The subtle notes of her perfume permeated the air, intensifying my own nervous anticipation. Every aspect of Zoe exuded the allure of a sophisticated woman. She seemed far removed from someone who might be grappling with relationship troubles. Yet, there was a subtle unease in her demeanor. "I look forward to our time together," she added softly, inclining her head slightly. "Are you absolutely certain about this?" I asked, offering her one final opportunity to reconsider. Zoe paused briefly, then met my gaze with unwavering determination and nodded her assent. We engaged in light conversation before taking turns to freshen up and relocate to the bedroom. Initially, an air of awkwardness hung between us, but as I shared a long-awaited kiss with Grace and experienced my first intimate moment with Zoe, the atmosphere quickly transformed into one of excitement and anticipation. "You haven't changed a bit," Grace remarked with a soft chuckle as she gently caressed me. Following her lead, Zoe began to explore with her touch. Her hands, initially cool, gradually warmed against my skin. I extended both arms to embrace them, and the previously tense atmosphere slowly melted into a sweet, intoxicating heat. The occasional sounds of their quickened breathing only served to heighten my arousal. In a heartbeat, I found myself rekindling my physical connection with Grace. Soft, melodious moans soon filled the room, intensifying the already charged atmosphere. Even after our time apart, our compatibility remained remarkably unchanged. I embraced her passionately, awash in a wave of nostalgia, and to my surprise, found myself ready for more almost immediately after our initial encounter. I suppose some things never change, even after a year, Grace mused with a knowing smile. Now, it's time for you to enjoy my sister's company. She gave me a gentle pat on the back and gracefully withdrew, making way for what was to come. As I gently caressed Zoe, an electric current seemed to course through my body. Her soft skin beneath my fingertips sent shivers down my spine, and my heart raced at the sight of her sweet expression, one I had never witnessed before. Zoe, who typically exuded a mature and sensual aura, now appeared utterly transformed. Her eyes, brimming with passion, met mine, and her slightly parted lips beckoned invitingly. Without realizing it, I found myself becoming increasingly aroused. As I delicately traced the curve of her neck, Zoe let out a soft, melodious moan that only encouraged me to explore further. When my hands gently cupped her breasts, Zoe's body arched gracefully, like a bow drawn taut. Every reaction, every subtle movement, was breathtakingly beautiful. As I tenderly caressed her waist and kissed her deeply, she trembled beneath my touch, pulling me closer. The moment she whispered, "Noah," in my ear, her voice low and husky, I was utterly captivated. Zoe's passionate responses to my touch completely enthralled me. Everything about her was alluring and exquisite. Despite being Grace's sister, the way she reacted and the excitement she ignited within me was entirely different. I was overwhelmed with an intense desire to cherish every part of her. Our connection grew increasingly fervent, transcending mere physical attraction. My intimate encounter with Zoe was nothing short of extraordinary. In my naivety, I attributed our incredible physical chemistry to some sort of natural compatibility. After we had finished making love, Grace approached us with a knowing smile and asked, "Still have some energy left?" Her suggestion caught me off guard, as it had been quite some time since we had been together. I smiled, marveling at the rarity of a second round with Grace. "Of course," I answered truthfully. What followed was a passionate whirlwind. I was intimate with Grace twice and with Zoe countless times. Although I had initially been mindful of not overwhelming them, I realized later that I had lost all semblance of self-control, allowing myself to be swept away by the intensity of the moment. As we all caught our breath afterwards, I was struck by a pang of guilt. "I'm sorry," I apologized, worried that I might have gone too far. "I got carried away." To my surprise, they exchanged glances, smiled softly, and reassured me, "It's okay. Don't worry about it." Grace chuckled lightly. "Noah's stamina really hasn't changed, but I've had enough for now." When I noticed Grace's slightly weary expression as she added, "The chemistry was good, and I was excited since it had been a while, but it's quite physically demanding after all," I realized that some things remained unchanged from our past relationship. It was then that Zoe, to my astonishment, said, "I want to do it again." I was taken aback, having assumed that I had overstepped and that she would be displeased. "Is that all right?" Zoe asked, her beautiful face turned towards me expectantly. In all honesty, my compatibility with Zoe had been unparalleled, and I was elated that she desired to continue. The prospect of being with her again filled me with excitement. Despite my lingering concern about the fact that she was my ex-wife's sister, Grace's bright smile at us made the situation feel almost surreal. I nodded, saying politely, "Yes, I'd love to see you again." Grace then said, "I'm glad, sis. I'm happy you found the courage. From now on, you two can contact each other directly and enjoy yourselves without me." After some light conversation, I exchanged contact information with Zoe, and the two sisters departed. And so, I, who had long struggled to move forward in relationships, finally took a small but significant step towards a new chapter in my life. Following that day, Zoe and I began communicating regularly via WhatsApp, exchanging messages throughout the day. On weekends, Zoe would visit my place, and we'd spend quality time together. During our encounters, Zoe consistently reassured me, saying, "You don't need to hold back with me." I surmised that Grace must have informed her about the reason for our divorce. Despite knowing about my high libido, Zoe still offered those words of acceptance. Initially, I was hesitant to take Zoe's words at face value. However, as she continued to approach me with enthusiasm, I eventually yielded, and we engaged in intimate encounters multiple times. This pattern persisted for approximately 4 months. Even after this period, Zoe continued to accept me wholeheartedly, always greeting me with endearing expressions. Our regular dates were genuinely enjoyable, filled with laughter and shared moments of joy. Zoe's presence in my life transformed even the most mundane experiences into something special. We found ourselves laughing at the smallest things and discovering happiness in life's simplest moments. Thanks to her, the world seemed to radiate with newfound brightness. As time progressed, I realized I had fallen deeply in love with Zoe, and upon this realization, I promptly confessed my feelings to her. In the past, I had been apprehensive about entering relationships, fearing that I might inadvertently hurt someone. However, Zoe's warm and welcoming nature gradually allayed these fears. Her consistent acceptance and visible joy in my company slowly put me at ease, leading me to believe that with Zoe, things could be different. This newfound comfort likely contributed to my swift decision to confess my feelings. When I expressed my emotions clearly, Zoe responded with a smile, saying, "I'm happy. Let's continue to nurture our relationship." While I nodded in agreement, I made a private resolution. If we were to start dating officially, I would exercise more restraint in our physical relationship. Reflecting on my past relationship with Grace, I realized she too had accepted me initially. At that time, I had mistakenly equated frequent physical intimacy with affection, wrongly assuming Grace shared my perspective. Consequently, I had unintentionally pushed Grace to endure more than she was comfortable with. This time, I was determined not to repeat the same mistake. I didn't want to risk losing someone I loved due to my strong desires or libido. I reasoned that if I could secure a future with Zoe by exercising some self-control, if we could maintain our relationship, and if it meant we could eventually live without any reservations, then I should be the one to practice restraint. To this end, I established some personal guidelines, such as refraining from daily intimacy and limiting our encounters to a maximum of twice a day. I believe this approach would yield positive results. However, approximately 3 months into our relationship, the happiness I had envisioned nearly disintegrated. After we officially started dating, I diligently adhered to the rules I had set for myself, resisting temptation during our meetings. Although it proved challenging, I was determined not to burden Zoe. Despite the decreased frequency compared to our pre-dating period, I perceived this as a positive development, viewing it as a demonstration of my consideration. But 3 months into our relationship, Zoe unexpectedly suggested, "Perhaps we should end this relationship?" Her words left me feeling as though my world had suddenly darkened. I struggled to comprehend her reasoning. We had been enjoying our dates, and I believed I hadn't been overly demanding, desperately searching for an explanation. Perhaps the frequency was still too high? I found myself at a loss. With tears welling in my eyes, I could only ask, "Why?" Zoe's response caught me off guard. "I want to ask you the same question," she said. "Why have you completely ceased being intimate with me since we started dating?" Shocked by her words, I listened intently as Zoe began to explain her perspective. Just before Grace proposed the idea of the three of us getting together, I was in a relationship. However, my boyfriend ended things, saying, "I can't continue this relationship. It's too much for me." The issue? My libido is exceptionally high. No matter how frequently we were intimate, I always craved more. All my previous partners encountered the same problem, claiming they couldn't keep up with me. I began to think there must be something fundamentally wrong with me, that my body was abnormal, or my mind was somehow distorted. This isn't a topic one can easily discuss with others, you know? I felt too embarrassed to confide in anyone about my strong sexual desires. However, shortly before Grace suggested our threesome, she and I went out for drinks. In my inebriated state, I ended up confessing to Grace about my high libido. That's how she learned about my situation. I had been concealing it out of shame all this time. My memories of Grace's reaction that night are hazy due to my intoxication. But the following day, Grace approached me with an unexpected proposition. Sis, would you like to try things out with Noah? As Zoe recounted her story, I gained a deeper understanding of her struggles and the circumstances that led to our unconventional encounter. Zoe's candid confession appeared to be a potential turning point in our relationship, opening the door for more honest communication and mutual understanding. Grace made a surprising suggestion. Noah is my ex-husband, and he's just like you, sis. We said we divorced because our personalities didn't match, but the truth is, Noah's libido was too strong for me. That's why I think you and Noah would be a perfect match. Of course, we agreed that if my sister was embarrassed about her high sex drive, we wouldn't mention it to Noah. Grace suggested we try a threesome first, and then decide if the two of you wanted to keep in touch after seeing how things went. She thought it was a good idea because if things didn't work out, we could easily brush it off as just having some fun together. I had met Noah a few times before, but I had no idea we were so similar in that way. I was surprised and excited, but also nervous. As a woman, it's embarrassing to admit having a strong sex drive, so I didn't say anything about it when we had our threesome. After that, Noah and I started contacting each other privately. I was happy that he desired me every time we met. It felt great not having to hold back, and I thought every day was amazing. I gradually fell for Noah, and I felt like we were really compatible. But as soon as we officially started dating, we stopped being intimate. Even when I desperately tried to seduce him, he would avoid it. He'd say he loved me, but he clearly wouldn't touch me. I finally explained to Noah why I wanted to be intimate with him. It turned out he had misunderstood again. He was trying to be considerate. As I thought about this, I explained everything to him. I told him about his relationship with Grace, what led to their divorce, how he had mistakenly thought I might dislike his strong libido, and how he didn't want to be too demanding. I explained all of this seriously and respectfully. I'm so sorry, I said, bowing my head as soon as I heard Noah's explanation. I was too embarrassed to tell you about my high sex drive. I'm really sorry. If I had been honest from the start, you wouldn't have had to hold back. No, I'm the one who should apologize, Noah replied. I always do this. I misunderstand things, make assumptions on my own, and act without talking to the other person. Even though it involves both of us, I always act based on my thoughts alone. I'm sorry for making you say things you didn't want to. I'm sorry I didn't realize anything until you told me. I don't want to break up, Noah continued earnestly. If I don't have to hold back anymore, I won't hold anything back. I want to make love to you as many times as it takes to satisfy you. It's not just about the physical intimacy. Being with you makes me happy. That's why I don't want to break up. I nodded immediately and said, I feel the same way. First, I'm sorry for jumping to conclusions and suggesting we break up. Can I take back what I said earlier? I know it's not easy to take back something once it's been said, but now that we don't have to hold back for the rest of our lives, please stay by my side. Noah immediately embraced me, whispering thank you several times. That night, we made love so many times we lost count, finally releasing all the pent-up desire we had been holding back. It was then that I finally understood. We had faced a crisis soon after we started dating, but by communicating openly, we managed to avoid breaking up. After that, we became much better at discussing our desires and needs. Thanks to this, we were able to build our daily life together, satisfying each other without any fights. Time flew by, and before we knew it, we had been dating for a year. Around that time, I started thinking about marriage. Noah and I were truly compatible in every way. Our sexual preferences and frequency matched, our personalities clicked, and we even had similar hobbies. Just being together was healing for both of us. Plus, we communicated so well that I never felt stressed. Meeting someone so perfect for me feels like a miracle. That's why I started wanting to spend the rest of my life with Noah, and I began to envision our future together. We often talked about marriage, and I knew Noah wanted to get married too. So, I gathered my courage, prepared a ring, and finally, I proposed to Zoe. Her reaction was priceless. She froze in surprise, a moment that only deepened my love for her. Her joyous exclamations, "I'm so happy," What should I do? Melted my heart. As I asked for her hand in marriage, I silently wished for our blissful everyday life to continue indefinitely. Zoe's response, "Can I really stay by your side, Noah? Thank you. Please take care of me," filled me with indescribable joy. That night, our passion for each other reached new heights as we celebrated our engagement. Our journey towards marriage began smoothly, thanks in large part to Grace's unexpected support. Despite the initial surprise from Zoe's parents, Grace championed our relationship, saying, "I introduced them to each other." My marriage with Noah was enjoyable in its own way. "Look how happy my sister is." Her endorsement was crucial in securing her parents' blessing, for which we were immensely grateful. After receiving their approval, I expressed my gratitude to Grace. "Thank you for making our reunion possible." Grace's response was both gracious and touching. "Noah, I'm grateful to you too. Though we're exes now, our married life was happy. I'm thankful for that, and I sincerely hope you'll find happiness in the future. Please take good care of my sister." With Grace's support, we celebrated our wedding surrounded by the blessings of our loved ones. 8 years into our marriage, our love and joy have only deepened. Both Zoe and I maintain our vitality, ensuring our intimate life remains fulfilling. Our days are a perfect balance of hard work and quality time together. Zoe's presence in my life continues to inspire me to be a better person and to live more earnestly. I've come to believe that true happiness lies in openly expressing and accepting each other's desires. To nurture our relationship, I'm committed to maintaining open communication with Zoe, honestly expressing my feelings, and avoiding getting lost in my own thoughts. Recently, I learned that Grace has also found marital bliss. Seeing her genuinely happy smile brought me a sense of completeness. We've all found our own paths to happiness. As I reflect on our journey while reminiscing with Zoe, I felt compelled to share our story with you. Thank you for taking the time to read our tale of love, understanding, and second chances. If you have any heartwarming memories of your own, please feel free to share them in the comments below.